Mr. President, thank you, Commissioner and Presidency. I've tried, along with my colleagues, to maintain a constructive approach throughout when compiling my report. At the same time, I make no apologies for self-examination on behalf of this House with a verdict of room for improvement. May I thank my shadows for their equally constructive approach. There are two questions which run throughout the theme of the report that I've produced. Why do we need to argue or pursue the smart regulation agenda at this time? Secondly being, why now? Well, it's clear the current economic circumstances are dramatically affecting our businesses, and as I speak with them, I find that alongside all the traditional difficulties and challenges that they have had, they face specific and particular ones today, such as raising capital in the current financial situation and recruiting a talented workforce from within the EU. We as policymakers must do our very best to support these engines of the European economy. Yet, lamentably, our current regulatory framework continues to stifle the business and entrepreneurs seeking to create jobs and growth in Europe. Setting up business in Europe is actually getting too costly and time-consuming. Why should it cost 4 times as much to set up a business in Europe as compared to the US, Brazil, or indeed India? And in times of highly mobile capital, fast-paced innovation and ever-quickening production cycles, the economic cost of holding up business with such bureaucracy is unsustainable. Our maze of regulation directly affects our citizens, a considerable number of whom have lost their jobs during the financial crisis and are now seeking new opportunities for work, and it is hugely important that new businesses are supported and are able to create new employment. More broadly, the flaws of our current legislative approach only raises doubt in the minds of our citizens. As soon as you leave the bubble of Brussels, most ordinary Europeans find it very difficult to understand what the EU is. And when they see the effects of some of what originates here, they ask, whose side are you on? With such immediate problems, focus undeniably turns to the short to medium term. Yet even greater challenges await Europe in the future. Domestically, we face generation-defining problems in the energy sector and managing the environment, together with finding a successful growth model for the 21st century. Many of the issues affect the very fabric that makes up our society, and we must not divide into extremism or disillusionment, but come together to find the solutions. These difficult challenges must be met with the best policy responses built up through evidence and consultation, so as to ensure that the public can understand and support the solutions that governments and the European Union find. Our attention must not only be focused on ourselves here in Europe, though as the rising competitiveness of our neighbours throughout the world makes it essential we do all we can to support innovation and growth in our economies. With India and China literally breathing down our necks, it is essential that the EU and the Member States take action to create a framework fostering economic competitiveness and promoting growth if we are going to be able to meet this long-term challenge. Europe has once been the leader in developing ideas and exporting its success across the world. We must remain open for business. We must create a new vision of Europe, one which is seen as the most attractive place to come and work, a place of opportunities, not one of difficulties and complications. I'm no advocate of the pull-up the drawbridge Europe. Much to the contrary, Europe must remain open for business. This is why the closing approach to immigration in some of our member states concerns me. Having spent much time steering the EU-India FTA through this House, I despair at the obstacles being put in place in some of our member states. The loss is clearly ours. The improved approach to policy making.
Time, you had only 4 minutes.
Mr. President, I will conclude in that case simply to say the approach that we need to adopt is one which needs to be on a joint approach basis between the Commission, Parliament and Council. I hope much of what is in my report you will find acceptable.